Hello everyone. So, like always, we want to bring you inspiring stories of students who have done amazing work with their GMAT and their applications, or any one of them, and have actually created some real inspiration for all of you. So today we are gonna interview Kashish, who has converted ISB in round two with 615, and direct convert, no wait list, nothing, a straight convert at 615 round two. And last year ISB converting it was super difficult. It was a bloodbath because of whatever happened in round one in US schools and all. Like the competition was super high. There was a lot of applications with went to ISB, and obviously, I'm sure Kashish can tell us more about that. She is at ISB right now. She has completed almost 2 months now, Kashish, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
1.5 months, 2 months. Yeah,
but I'm sure it feels like the entire year, right?
yeah, definitely. Every day is a new beginning.
So definitely Kashish will tell more about us about that as well. But yes, great job, Kashish. Converting 600 at 615. I'm super happy. The day you told me that it happened, again, this interview is happening a lot later. Like you got to
Yeah,
know your result long back. I think about 3.5 months it has been already since you got the result. So that
yeah.
feeling would have synced in. But I want you to still recollect your the first reaction when you saw that email coming from ISB. What was your first reaction on that day?
So I was genuinely surprised. So this was the first day I had not checked my phone the entire day. So I
Oh,
will just tell you the story. So the round two results came a week before when I received my results. So
yeah.
everyone started receiving their wait list, were they selected or not, were they rejected. But I did not receive anything. I was waiting for the mails for a week that something will come, something will show up. Nothing
Correct.
was showing up. On a random day, I was busy in office till 8 a.m. and suddenly a mail popped up. Oh, congratulations. And I was like, oh my God. So I think that was a wonderful feeling. I was surprised. I was in like shock. Oh wow. Then it was really good, actually. Yeah, nice.
And honestly, a lot of people don't understand this feeling. But just to be clear, for background, ISB generally rolls out the decisions in one go, generally, in a 1 or 2 day period. But this year, the application volume was so high that there was like a lot of things going on at parallel. They had started the YL, like the Young Leader program, which is a 2 year MBA also. So all of that considered, like there was a delay in rollout of all the decisions. So it took
Yeah.
entire week to roll out, and that entire week was, I know, I speaking to you also, and some of my other students also, was really difficult for
Yeah.
everyone. It's
I had heard in round one, they actually did in one go itself. So there was this one wave of results, final results, then waitlist, and then rejections. But round two was a lot different.
very
I
different,
think
yes.
that 15 days were a stress for us that, when for the final results will come. So yeah,
No, I can totally understand, but all ended up well. So
ended up
great
well.
to have a
Really
good
well.
part. So let's start with the introduction. Let's tell users about what is that you did when, did you start thinking of ISP, and let's start with that, yeah.
Yeah. So I started thinking ISB like I was working with Bain for a couple of years. I had worked with Bain for already 2 years, and I had worked across two teams. But further, I thought that there's a lot more development that I require to go and strategize things. I was always interested into consulting, and I wanted to learn more to adapt those skills. So that's why I thought of ISB. I had a couple of friends who were already part of ISB, and they were doing really good, with the networks they had created, or the with related to academics, or the companies they were working with. I was really intrigued by it, and that's why I wanted to apply to ISB at that time. So at the start, the journey started after 2 years. I started working, and it has been a 1 year or 1.5 year journey, giving GMATs back and
Hmm.
forth, giving GMAT a lot many times because the score was not that successful.
Mhm.
And yeah, so after 1.5 years, I finally, whatever GMAT score I had, I applied. I found Piyush in midway, and he really helped me. And yeah, here I am today.
I still remember our first discussion. It was like almost about 10-15 days before the round two deadline,
Yeah.
and it was a fine morning when we had started discussion, and almost half of our call was just around. I was telling Kashish that, okay, let's apply in round two. Let's not push for round three. You want
Mhm.
to improve your GMAT, but you have a better chance in round 2 with 615, and she was like, "Are you sure, Piyush? 615 may ho jayega, like 615 will work in round 2 for ISB." And it just didn't end there. We had another follow-up discussion. Like, I think it was same evening itself. I think we
Yeah,
had
yeah,
another quick discussion, and
yeah.
that time the discussion was solely focused on she telling me, Piyush, I have seen so many people in my own organization, Bain, getting rejected with slightly better scores. Why do you think my case will work? Why do you think 615 is the best? And like to apply, round 2 is the best, not 615. Round 2 is the best. And should we apply then? And yes, obviously, we had our, we took a bit of, let's say,
A challenge.
call
Yeah,
challenge here, but we
yeah.
also had a backup plan that, okay, in worst case scenario, what we can do to kind of send them a better GMAT and all of that was there. But yes,
Mm.
I still remember that discussion. So uh, glad that you heard me out and you applied
Yeah.
in round
So
two.
I would like to highlight the fact I found Piyush just for the fact that, he had previous experiences getting people with low scores. So I know that, Piyush will really, really help me, getting my profile really well evaluated and present me well. So yeah, so I think I found the right person.
No, that's a mutual feeling. Obviously, you
Yeah,
also heard me because I could see that like that time it is difficult, right? You have to take the right
yeah,
call. Like if I apply and I don't get in, then I lose even the chance of getting in round
yeah,
3.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, definitely we have worked with people in round 3 also, like similar profiles who had gotten. But
Yeah, yeah.
this year was slightly differently, which we felt that is gonna create a challenge for round 3, and glad we did. Like still had a student who got an interview call with ISB from ISB at 625 in round 3. Uh,
Nice.
but
Yeah.
but again, converting it is like a whole together was a very different story this year. Like was really a
Hmm.
bloodbath. So great. So let's start with the process. Like I'm sure a lot of people would want to hear how did you go about the entire process. So we had very short time before the application,
Yeah.
but like what was the process you did? Like did you start directly with the essays of ISB, or what is that you started with first?
So what did we start with? I remembered after talking with you, you had given me that proper Excel to evaluate myself, to self-introspect myself. So I think I started my application with that itself, like answering all of those questions, where my strength lies, what are the projects that I have done, the star format that you presented, that all your projects should be in that line itself. Then analyzing my achievements, my performances, where what impact I created. So I think those 50 to like 40 to 50 questions that I wrote for the first couple of days, I think that were like a great start to the journey, because I also previously had never, self introspected that much, where I'm good at, where I'm not. So those questions were really, really like they gave me a great kickstart on, how can I analyze, evaluate myself for the interviews, like what are the things that will be right to say and that will be not right to say. So I think that really helped. I think after that, I think connecting the story was not that difficult part, but actually getting everything out that I've done over the years was a difficult part, and that actually helped. So yeah, we started with that Excel. After that, I think Piyush and I got on a call to discuss the entire story. How can we, connect everything? Whether, if I had done something in undergrad and how did it connect to my goals in the future or to my work that I did at BCN. So the way that we connected so the way Piyush helped me connect my story from day zero to till the day I am working. So that was really nice. So the next step was, I think, connecting the story. Then I think we started writing the question. So
Correct.
obviously we after our discussions we gave points, like Piyush gave us points, this should be the format of how to write an essay. Then I think we had couple of since we had less times, we had couple of drafts, 3 4 drafts, I wrote, then I got edits and everything, and the final draft was made, and then I submitted it. So yeah, this was the whole journey, and
Whole
each.
journey in a very nutshell, very
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Yeah. So one thing which I would like to highlight to the users, and very rightly pointed out, Kashish, that that first step was the where you spend 2 days on the Excel. A lot of people get
Mm.
anxious around it when I tell them that, okay, you know what, we have less time and we are not starting off with the essays and we are doing some pre-work on an Excel sheet, which is possibly in a very different format from what you expect in the essays to be.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of people get panicked, but good that you actually spend that time and actually wrote the instances properly, because it's not about like you can't start with the essay prompts and say, okay, you know what, the essay prompt is asking me for this, and let me just focus on, let's say, for example, essay one of ISB talks about the strengths and weaknesses of a person. You can't
Right,
directly start with the strength and weakness. What is
right, right.
important, you need to understand, as you said rightly, that what have you done in your career, in not just your professional career, but even in your undergrad, and how does it connect with your overall story as to your overall
Mhm,
long-term
mhm.
goal, short-term goal, and you
Right.
have to present the relevant skills associated with it so that
Hmm.
ISP also knows that this person has the skills to achieve the goals technically,
Right,
right?
right,
That's
right,
the most crucial thing, and really helped us get an idea. And also another thing which a lot of people don't understand is that you get to see both sides of stories. You understand like what are, see again with the profile of a student, like for example, what I felt about your case was that uh, the work experience was slightly on the lower side. Like ISB generally, like 2 years is the bare minimum limit that they have to like have people in their batch, and ISB focuses a lot on leadership, right? That's a very important quality that they seek in people. So with 2 years of experience, how does one show a lot of leadership skills when honestly they don't have a chance to lead a team, or let's say even lead entire projects for that matter? So that was one challenge. And again, GMAT score was slightly on the lower side. But the idea is that how do we compensate, or how do we convince ISB that you still have a very strong application? There would be a lot of people applying from BCN, basically, and there would be a lot of people applying from same university as you are, Delhi University, maybe
right,
better scores. But how do we convince them that you present a stronger candidature than those people? So that
right.
pre-work is very critical. I strongly recommend doing that for everyone, irrespective of whether you are like 10 days away from the deadline or 2 months away.
Actually, the pre-work not only helped with my essays, but it actually helped in my interview also. So while I was prepping my initial interview questions, I think the pre-work really helped me. Like
Yes,
it
yes,
was the
yes.
one thing that I used to go and start looking at what I need to write, what I need to see or say on certain questions. So it was really nice.
Yeah, correct. Because what happens is
The
when you have
amount
actually,
the amount of
uh,
time I put in the 2-3 days was a apt amount that I put, and I think it worked well.
no, yeah, that's very important. Because what happens is that when you are into your own career, you don't really look at it from a holistic perspective as to why you did what you did. You remember that,
Right.
okay, this is what I achieved, but and this is what I did possibly, but why did I do that, and where does it place me, like in comparison to others, or all of that, like entire perspective, the holistic perspective is something you don't generally think. Just putting it there, right there, just helps you to evaluate it better
Yeah,
also.
definitely.
So great, great, Kashish. So let's go essay by essay. Like I think,
Yeah.
like let's talk about the first essay. Like ISB, if I'll just share for the users also. Like what was the
Sure.
first essay prompt? I'll just share the screen for a bit. So yeah, again, for every student, we generally do a strength weakness analysis, which I've shown here and I've already talked about it. So I'm just moving over. The idea is whenever you pick an essay, it is very important for one to understand how do you present basically your case in a strong way so that you're balancing between what the question is really asking for, your
Hmm.
skills with respect to what you want to get in the long term, and also basically answer, let's say, ISB's questions, or let's say concerns, some of those can which can arrive in that particular case. So what was your approach towards essay one, like Kashish? Like I know this was done almost like uh 5 6 months back, 6 months back now. So but yeah.
So my approach was, I remember my approach, but initially my approach was like, I was just directly starting with my strength and then telling the story. But I think I remember how you asked me to form it in a way that, it should start with the story and each and every line should create an impact. Like you mentioned that this is just a 400 word essay, you cannot just write anything that is not making sense. So I remember
Correct.
you asked me, the story should definitely connect, like from if you're writing, you did this, you should know why are you writing this, that should connect to the next line. So I think that approach, that mindset that you that mindset that you told me to, go ahead with it, that really helped. So so a next approach was that how I started with this, how I started with it was that I started with telling the story and then connecting, this
Hmm.
led me to become this person I am today, like this led me to, this is my strength today. So I think
Yeah.
this was the approach that I went ahead with, though there were a lot of changes that happened, but yeah, finally we were able to like form the
No,
answers.
obviously, like 400 words is just too less to tell your
Yeah,
entire life story.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
does happen. But the idea, the main important thing, as you rightly said, was that basically it is important to show a background story for ISB to even understand that this person is
Mhm.
able to do self reflection. They can look back at their life, understand what instances in their life have shaped who they are today, and also attach that personal angle to it. Like, and I remember we started talking about how you see your father as an inspiration who has basically like been a first generation, let's say, businessman, and he started working on his own, created things on his own. And how did that help you learn the importance of taking challenges, and how you took some challenges in the college also? Like I
Right.
remember we talked about like the clubs and societies that you were part of, and
Hello.
how you contributed to those in terms of the impact numbers also. So that
Hmm.
is very, very important as a factor to keep in mind. So it started with that, but then we talked about, and some people actually take it in this way, that in the first essay it's all about your personal journey, so it's just your personal life, but it's not just that. So I remember around in the structure that we started working with, about 150 or 100 to 150 words or approximately on the personal angle only, where we talked about
Yeah.
like the background and all the
Background
work
part.
in college
Hmm.
and everything. But important to showcase how you are using that in your uh, professional life also, because at the
Hmm.
end of the day it's a professional program. You have to showcase your professional skills, otherwise it's possibly not going to work out. So
Right.
uh, one interesting discussion that we had was that, okay, so many people apply from BCN. Like what, like I think you gave me a number, Kashish, right? That every year around 40 or 50 students apply from BCN. I remember that in the first call you said something like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
So there were people there. So this time also there were 40 people that are part of BCN here, like both Hyderabad and Mohali campus. More, I think more people apply. Like the count is
It
more than
is
50 who apply to BCN.
right. So a lot of people apply from the same organization. Obviously, like it's a high demand demanding role and all. But how do we differentiate ourselves from other people who are basically applying and stand out still? So we talked about presenting the fact that BCN itself hires top tier, like people from top tier colleges, including the IIDs and like SRCCs of the world, and how Kashish stood out in the top 5% of that competitive pool also, despite that much competition. So that shows ISB that, okay, like let's say for example, I have a person with BCN, and I'm sure many of them would have applied with, let's say, a 645 or 675, or
Right.
even let's say a higher score. But even when I see Kashish's score, like even if it is like 615, how is she still gonna compete with them? Because again, it's possible that on GMAT front something might not have worked out. The work pressure is just too much at BC, and I know my very close friend, I'm not gonna name him here, but very close classmate in MDI, worked to be a like senior at BC, and long for a long time he stayed at BCN, and he was like every single day clocking from 7 8 a.m in the morning till 8 p.m, or even 10 11 in the night. So that's
Yeah.
used to be the schedule. So it's very difficult, and colleges also understand that if the work is so demanding, you might not be able to put in that much effort on GMAT. But how do you showcase and compensate that through your work achievement? So we showed this, that okay, despite 2 years of experience, despite all of the things, we in that competitive pool we were able to get in the top 5%. So if you're capable of doing that, then how much capable we would be in actually in converting a good job at ISB also. And honestly speaking, my understanding is that again, it might sound like I'm calling ISB a placement company. It's not that I mean, but in India, the way B schools work is they actually focus a lot on your eventual placements. They actually care a lot about whether you end up getting into the right roles and how competitive can you be. And
Yeah.
please correct me, Kashish, if I'm saying anything wrong. You have the right to do that. I'm just telling you from my experience of doing my MBA from MDI Gurgaon. So that's what my feeling was, that you are entire couple of years or 1 year, whatever you're spending, you're
Mhm.
focusing on the eventual goal. Obviously, you're studying and everything, you're doing that, but
Yeah.
the eventual goal is to do that. So when they are looking at your applications also, they are seeing whether this person is someone who can actually strive in that highly competitive environment and get into a top 5% or top 10% and get the coveted jobs that they look for. And
Yeah.
then obviously it's important to show with examples also, like what kind of work you did. And I remember we talked about how you were from a non-technical background.
Yeah.
Despite being from a non-technical background, you learned some of the technicalities of VBA, Alteryx and all, and how
Mhm.
that helped you end up saving a lot of time by doing automation. Even in an organization like BCN, which is like really competitive, strives for perfection, and still you
Hmm.
were able to free up a lot of mandates for every project and all of that. So that was something which really, really gave us a very strong start. Like that's what
Yeah.
my feeling is. Please feel free to add anything that you feel on top of this.
I think I think the work that I did during while I was mentioning everything during my Excel part where I was mentioning everything that I did, but I believe with there I might have mentioned in a very generic way, but you actually helped me bring it out in a way, the way the impact that I created, that the impact was definitely true, but that it was not coming from me exactly. So I think shaping that also you really helped me. So yeah,
So
it
yeah,
is
I
really
think that's
necessary. It is very necessary that whatever you do in an organization, you should actually bring out the impact that you're doing. Like you are working since 3 years, you're not focusing on what is the impact that you're creating. So actually realizing that while doing essay was really necessary to bring out whatever we have done over the years.
correct, correct. And see, again, at the end of the day, now with ChatGPT and AI coming in so
Hmm.
broadly, like anyone can write good essays. Essays is not
Right.
like writing part is not what is important anymore, because writing is something which anyone can do using ChatGPT. But the
Okay.
main thing is to be able to understand exactly what you have done, why you have done, and what a B school is looking at when they look at your
Hmm.
profile, what an adcom will have like questions around basically in your particular case, not a generalized case. And I think you did all the great things. Obviously, this is not my story, your story. You did all the work on the ground. I was just looking at from a third person's perspective to able to
Yeah.
give you a guidance as to how you should structure it. So, and
You help me bring it out actually.
no, no, definitely, it was obviously like that's
Yeah.
what my job was. So
Yeah.
I've just done my job. But yeah, good, good. Okay, so we can talk about the other essays also. Like any specific mention you would want to talk about, like maybe in the second essay or third essay, which was around I think learning and the goals. Yeah.
Can you show me the essay two slide once?
Yeah,
I
I know it's like it's six
wait
months
like a
almost.
long
Yeah,
back. Yeah.
yeah. No worries, no worries. That's yeah. So I think that was the second essay. Yeah, and again, some of the things that we discussed over there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember while I was writing this essay, I had a lot to talk about, like because I had experience across two domains, like both
Mhm.
ESD and vector space at BCN. So I had to talk, like I had a lot of things to talk about, what work I did, what was the impact that I created, what different teams that I, worked with. But the fact that we actually had to highlight how the transition took place. For example, whether transition was easy, because these two are very different COEs that we were talking about. So the need to show that that adaptable nature is coming out is
Mhm.
what was important in that aspect. And I think
Correct.
it was very difficult to just show everything in just one or two paras that ISB is asking for. So
Correct.
so I think connecting those, finding the right words, finding each and every word that is creating an impact was really, I think, really necessary. And that's what we tried to bring it out in this essay.
Yes, basically the idea is like for the like understanding of others. Like again, both of us know about the entire story and all,
Yeah.
but we were planning to pitch around strategy consulting in the short
Hmm.
term, basically. So the idea was to show skills which are uh, basically gonna help Kashish create a strong candidature for strategy consulting. So adaptability as a consultant is a very important skill. Like how quickly can you move from one type of project from a very different to a different type of project in a very quick span of time. And the second thing, obviously, was that with 2 years of work experience, the other question which ISB also get is that how will the person be able to gel with the curriculum and the fast rigor of ISB. In fact, this question, if you notice, is concerned around the approach to learning, basically. Like, how do you learn? What's your approach to learning? And they're indirectly trying to understand whether you'll be able to fit in ISB's rigor or not. So that's why we decided that we'll talk about this angle where Kashish had really done some great job in two different teams in a very short span of time, where the transition was easy, the training was very short. There was just a week's time where she had to kind of like get used to the thing and start delivering. And how, despite doing all of it, she was able to make impact on the new basically work stream as well. So again, there are certain small parts of the essay that we have highlighted. All the entire essay we can't show, but like the idea was to kind of showcase adaptability as a skill, which helps basically to get a broader picture, connect to consulting story in the long run, and obviously at the same time answer the question which is talking about how you have like learned in the past, how have you handled trigger in the past. That's an indirect question that we ended up answering, and obviously all of that worked out well. So
Yeah.
so I think that's good. Uh,
I think here we also connected, irrespective, we were connecting, we were talking about my work expert. We also talked about some undergraduate, the experiences that I had
yes,
2, 3 years back before being part of like a big
yes,
company. So I think that was also connecting my story really well. So
yes,
it's
yes.
not just
Holistic
that one
improvement.
part, it's really necessary, that you actually take care, you actually see where this all is coming from, where this all is
Yes.
connecting.
Yes, the idea behind that was very simple, that even despite managing, doing very well in academics,
Hmm.
Kashish was able to do really well in the communities and clubs, even during college. Because eventually in ISB also you need to do that, right? Like we have to work, study. There are terms happening. Kashish definitely wants to talk about how she did a midterm and a end term in just 2 weeks gap, basically. So
I think let's not talk about it.
I know this year has been really
Yeah,
deadly in that sense. And with all of that, you have to manage your club activities. Your competitions are going on, and soon enough the placements and also are gonna
yeah,
start. So all of that has to be happened. So basically, that entire journey has to be covered. Like, how do you start from what proof of concept you can give in the past? You have done this already in your college, and that you can continue doing at ISB. So yes, they're definitely very important to showcase that holistic aspect of your learning experience
exactly,
also. So, great.
exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk about your interview experience, Kashish. How was your interview experience at ISB? Like how did you prepare for it? What was the experience like overall?
Yeah. So I think I got my interview call 10 days before the my final interview start. So I think it is
Okay.
much more time that people usually get. So
Hmm.
people usually get 7 to 5 days. I got 10 days. So I was really glad about it. So how my prep started was that I started preparing with the initial questions that Tuition had a discussion on, the basic questions. What are your long-term, short-term goals? What is your experience? As I mentioned before, he gave me a star approach for all the projects that I had done. So I should have, the situation, the problem, the impact that I created. So initially I started with everything, writing it down, jotting down all the points that I had. Then after introspecting and writing all the answers, I started having, mock interview calls. So one of the mock interviews I had with Piyush. And there there, after prepping so much, I realized that there was so many aspects that I had not come across, that that the interviewer could have questioned. So I think those mock interviews, like couple of mock interviews with Piyush, with some alums, really, really helped me, gauge, where I'm actually lacking. So I think that really helped me, preparing the questions, having more mock interviews, and on the final day, I think when the questions were asked, I think I knew answer to each and every question. Obviously, there were
Okay.
some follow back questions that might be a little tricky, but at the end of the day, I think there was the mock interviews helped me so much that I was actually able to answer all those questions that were asked to me in the interview.
No, that's very, very important. A lot of people take the interviews very lightly. They think, okay, you know, interview has happened, they have come, they like me, and they just prepare at a basic level, and then the interview ends up basically being the final deciding point in ISB, because
Right,
it's not like they gave a certain weightage to interview. I think, per my experience, what I've seen is in ISB, interview is a deciding factor. Like once your
right,
interview call has come, nothing else matters basically.
I remember the last mock that I gave with Piyush. I was really, really overwhelmed. I still was skeptical, whether I'll be able to answer all the questions or not. Because sometimes maybe the approach was not structured. Maybe I was not giving the right answers that I should have. I had all the answers in my mind, but they were not coming out the way it should
Yes.
be.
Yes.
So I think I was really, really overwhelmed at the very last mock interview. But yeah, I think the final interview went really good.
No, it was good that that happened.
Yeah.
Again, again, the stakes are high, right? You are fighting a very difficult case. Like you know that you have to give a very strong impression. I also wanted you to do well. You also wanted
Yeah,
yourself to do well.
exactly.
So that sometimes ends up happening, but uh, final day is what matters. So yeah, it
Yeah,
went really well in your favor because of all the great work that you did. So
yeah.
I'm really, really glad. I was really uh, waiting, not just for you, for all my other students also who we worked
Mhm.
with and helped them get into
Mhm.
ISB. There are multiple of them there, but yeah, like I can totally understand like that final call is what matters eventually. So, any other tips that you would like to give our users for like ISB application? Anything else from your side?
I think stick to your story for sure. First, my advice would be definitely stick to your story. Like try to bring. Everyone has done great things. I'm definitely sure about it. The way you bring out matters a lot. So stick to your story. Bring that impact that you can. And secondly, I believe, especially for interviews, when you are prepared with those specific points. For example, I think the one thing that really helped me was being very structured in for every question. So for every question, if you had just two or three words in mind, that adaptability. If the strength is adaptability, you should have adaptability in mind. Then you can tell your story whatever you want to. But those final first points should definitely be with you in your mind and your fingertips. That I know this, that I will definitely say this. The story, I'll say whatever I want to, but the point should be with me. I think these things, this fun and the only approach helped me during my interviews to talk about the stories that I had. And thirdly, I think be really, really true. You don't have to faff anything. Whatever you
Yeah.
are, be true, true to yourself. If even if during interviews you did not have any answer to questions, just tell them, maybe I'm not in a position to answer that right now. Maybe let me think about certain questions. Maybe if you need a little bit more time in your interviews, just tell them, that
Yes.
please let me give me one time or few seconds to think on it. I think I did that in my interview couple of times. There were certain tricky questions that came on to me, and I actually told them that I want to 30 seconds to think about it, and then I did reply. So I think the one more thing that happened during my interviews was the situational questions that they ask. Right. So the situational things really put you on spot. What decisions are you going to make at that point? So I think thinking actually taking time to think rather than just blabbering whatever you have in mind that time is will actually help you in during the interviews. So yeah, I think
Okay. No, that's very,
those
very
were
critical.
the
In fact,
couple of
I remember like in even in our discussions, like we were focusing a lot on that, like structure the things you have the time.
yeah,
You're like
yeah.
initial interviews, like it was like you're jumping onto the answer sometimes, and it was important to take that
Because it
step
is
back.
also coming from the fact that we know our story, so we want to tell everything. But the
Exactly.
interview doesn't have any time, to listen to the entire thing. They just want to listen everything in short. So I think
Yes.
that really helps.
As you said, it's more about the certain points. You have to keep that in mind. Don't try to memorize your answers. Just have the understanding that, okay, in these questions, I want to cover these aspects, and be impromptu. In that moment,
Exactly.
just speak out what you want to, but yeah, just keep those important things in place and everything will else fall into place. Yeah.
Actually, it was also because I was only able to give answers because I remember during my mock interviews there were similar, tricky questions asked by Piyush. I'm sure about it that while after I gave my interview, I was just pondering like what led me to answer those questions. It was because I Piyush
Yes.
actually put me in those situations that these are you have to answer these kind of questions. So yeah, I think that really
And
helped.
it's important to also have questions in mind with respect to your own profile. Like obviously, like
Yeah.
the key questions that a alumni is gonna have with your case. So you worked really well for that. That's a positive thing, and it's important that you put in the effort. I remember basically how difficult that entire phase was. So many things were happening, but you still you stayed positive, gave your 100% in, and then all of that worked out well.
Yeah.
So happy to kind of see you where you intended to be, and I hope like it's gonna be a great time. Just
Yeah.
1.5 months, entire what it's exactly how many months long program?
So
13?
it's exactly 1 year. I joined April
Okay, okay,
12th. So next year, April 12th will be the final day.
okay. So
Yeah.
another 10.5 month of
Yeah. Not much
writing.
time. Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Keep me posted, Kashish. Definitely
Yes,
love
definitely.
to see you doing great, and keep me posted. Any other help you need, happy to do that at any point of time. But thank you so much for taking out time today from a
Thank
busy
you.
schedule. I know you had just 3 days off
Yeah.
before the next term starts, but yeah, like thank you for taking out time today. Thank
Thank
you.
you.